Hey, this is Matt once again. We're about to end the video, and this is a paid request for Adam. Thank you so much for that. For those interested, requested any type of videos, topics, tier lists, rankings, reviews, re-reviews, DOS streams, commentaries, whatever the case may be, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal. Do have a Cash App as well. Links are down below in the info box. I'll get to as soon as I possibly can. And Adam wanted me to talk about the Mosquito Coast, which came out in 1986, which I know this was a big flop because at this point, Harrison Ford was on a pretty big streak because he had the Star Wars films, he had at least two Indiana Jones films at this point. Witness had come out. Now, for I understand, Peter Weir wanted to do this film before Witness, but it took a while for it to get set up. And because of that, Witness came about. That's how he worked with and met Harrison Ford. Told Harrison Ford about this project, and Ford's, oh, this seems a bit different. I'll try this out. Although, I don't know. I'm sure his agents probably tried to talk him out of it because it's a very different, unlikable character. I mean, you're not supposed to like Harrison Ford's character because he's a mad scientist, for lack of a better phrase. But while Witness was a huge hit, nominated, I think, for Best Picture, Oscar, I believe, like, it was a huge hit. This was not. It was a big flop. Critics were not big fans of it. And it's got a bit of a following nowadays. And Peter Weir, very capable director. Dead Poet Society. I really enjoy The Truman Show. I would say The Truman Show is my favorite Peter Weir film. But this one I didn't mind. I thought this was at least interesting enough for one watch. Harrison Ford, like I said, he stars in the film. You also have Helen Mirren, which, I mean, she's done a lot of dramatic work, but I actually remember her from some action films like Red and Red 2 with Bruce Willis. And then she was in some of the Fast and Furious movies. She plays the wife. They have 4 kids. One of them is River Phoenix. Rest in peace to him. I know this was right after he did Stand By Me. And ironically enough, will later play the younger Harrison Ford in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. So, I don't know, maybe Steven Spielberg saw this film and said, oh, yeah, use River Phoenix. Which he did a great job in Last Crusade. Pretty much Harrison Ford, he's an inventor, but he rants about the way the country is. That the country's going to the trash, going to the dogs. They buy junk, they sell junk, they eat junk. Sooner or later there's going to be a nuclear war. I'm not going to buy supplies when they're made in Japan. What am I supposed to say? Sayonara? He's just very, very adamant about how the American dream has been sullied, and to me he sounds like just a whining bitch, but he just complains about everything. And he's hired to make this cooling system for the barn, but he decides to make this ice machine that he puts it as a prototype. And like, I can't really blame the other guy. The other guy's like, listen, I hired you to have a cooling system for the barn. All you made is this small thing that can't do anything for the vegetables getting out of the ground. Like, what am I supposed to do with this little thing? Well, it's a prototype. And it's like, well, how do you know he's got the money and all this stuff to make a bigger prototype and all this stuff? So Harrison Ford, he says that he's glad that the guy said no, but you know, deep down he doesn't. And he's obsessed with this idea of going to the jungle because I'll find people there that think that an ice tube was like a diamond and they'll appreciate what I do. And pretty much takes his family and they go to the Mosquito Coast. They go to the jungle, where they go into this patch in the middle of the jungle. This dog shithole of a village, and they build and they work together with some people that are there, and they seems like they're trying to make like a utopia, and ultimately Harrison Ford's character makes it so they have electricity, makes a bigger notion of that machine that they wanted. Which, hell, I'm thinking, if it's that easy, if you can make this big machine in the middle of the jungle, why didn't you just make that your home and prove them wrong? But again, he's a guy that you just, to tell he's just losing his mind. And the thing is, you know how in The Shining or Jack Nicholson, people complain that they don't really see him as a normal guy, so that when he traverses to an insane guy, is not as effective to them compared to, say, the novel The Shining. But for me, I'm fine with that because it's such an enjoyable, fun, I don't want to say campy, but it's just a very fun performance with lines. Give me the bat. Darling of my life, I'm not going to hurt you. I'm just going to bash your brains in. Go bash you right the fuck in. It's just such an enjoyable. I'm willing to forgo and forgive that. Here, I would make that case for this, where to me I never see Harrison Ford as a normal guy. Like, to me, he's crazy from the start, with his ramblings and incessant ranting. That even at this point, I keep thinking his family should be cautious of him, worried about him. That's why the guy who was the guy complaining about the icebox, he even tells River Phoenix he's a dangerous man, he's going to get you all killed, and he's not wrong. And that's the thing, it's not really me seeing Harrison Ford's character go crazy, it's just like he's crazy from the start. It's just crazier. So I never feel any sympathy for Harrison Ford's character. That's what I'm getting at. Now, I don't know, maybe was that ever the intention? I don't know. But I never felt sorry for him from the get-go. And I think, for me, I would prefer the guy who was less hostile. Because he's very hostile. And funny enough, the guy who they're trying to get the supplies from, I think he's a very young Jason Alexander. He doesn't have any dialogue. Or no, he has a little bit, like maybe a teeny bit, like not much. And he's giving him a hard time, and he gives him supplies, and Harrison says, "No, I can't take this. It's made in Japan." And he said, "Well, I mean, this is what we got, man." It's just very hostile, just a dick, just complete dick. And even when we're on the boat, and there's this reverend, this missionary. And granted, I mean, he's not the most likable guy either, but Harrison Ford just picking at him and trashing him, like, verbally. It just... So many times I'm looking at Helen Mirren's character. I'm looking at the kids. And like, the kids, you say, okay, they're young and, what all could they do? But the wife, I mean, are you going to do anything about this? Are you going to fucking do anything to help out your kids? Can you not see how fucking batshit insane your husband is? I mean, I don't even get what you see in this guy. Because he's smart and he is an inventor, but just he goes on these insane ramblings like from the get-go. And they just have this idea of, yep, we're going to leave America. We're going to leave all our house and our belongings behind. And then we're just going to go into the jungle. And the fact that Helen Mirren doesn't question it, well, wait a minute. Wait a minute. I said, if Harrison Ford's character was a bit more of a normal guy, where he means well, and he's less hostile, and he's more supportive, sympathetic, loving as a father, loving as a husband, and thus we understand why they're willing to take this trip, this move, this first step on this journey. take this plunge, then you get the sadness and tragedy that within the jungle, the more power he gets, the more his mind loses, and the worse he gets. And but I didn't really feel that. It just felt like he was psychoed to begin with, and you're just waiting for these characters to wake the fuck up, which you think you should have woken up 5 minutes in. So I would say that's the thing that annoyed me the most about the film. Now again, like I said, I do not mind the film because I do think the acting is a very different performance from Harrison Ford. River Phoenix once again shows he's a capable child actor that would have gone to bigger and better things if things had been different. Because even I liked him in, was it Sneakers? That was in 1992 or so. I thought the music was very atmospheric by Maurice Jarre. He did Jacob's Ladder and Ghost and other films. He's a very, sadly he's passed away, but great composer. And he definitely brought, the best way I call it, an atmosphere to the music, to the score. So I think he's very effective. Where they shot in the jungle definitely has this claustrophobic, oppressive feeling to it. And I mean, I definitely feel sorry for the kids because they get there. And to be fair though, for a good chunk of it, the kids are not really complaining a whole lot. I mean, if I was a kid, I was forced to go into the fucking jungle, I'd be saying a hell of a lot more than these kids did. But yeah, they're building up the village, and Harrison Ford will go on these tirades of, see, if they ever have a war, this will help them out. Not finger painting or home economics or whatever they teach at school. This is the school they need. And like the whole time, I just see Harrison Ford's character as arrogant and egotistical. Again, I appreciate seeing that performance from Harrison Ford because I think he's a great actor and it's a very different type of role for him to play. And that mixed in with the look of the jungle and just me being curious as to what's going to happen next, which they're cleaning stuff up and the place is looking nicer and nicer, and he's able to make this big building with the ice and able to make ice, and then that's when, get into the precipice, and then that's when things start to go downhill. But again, I'm just still, throughout this whole film, I'm sitting there going, how the fuck? I mean, the River Phoenix and his brother, because they have also like two younger sisters. Like, there's a point where they start realizing a little bit that enough is enough. But it feels like they took a bit of a while for it to get to it. But yeah, I'm trying to sit there going, like sometimes, like I mean, yeah, it's the kids. They can only do so much, to be fair. But the wife, she just I did not like her. Not because of the acting, but Helen Mirren's character is just such a fucking infuriating. Like, do something about this. Such an infuriating waste of space of a character. Yeah, not the actress, but the character. God, she infuriated the fuck out of me. It's just so. But I mean, there is truth to that. There are wives that are just blind to what's going on and will go along. So I do get that. I do get that there are people in the real world that do this. But that infuriates the fuck out of me too in the real world as well. So yeah, it may be realistic, but it still infuriates the fuck out of me, and I still don't like seeing them and don't care to be within, don't want them in my vicinity. That's again, that's why for me, if I stop fucking stuttering, that I would have appreciated seeing this gradual descent to madness instead of, yeah, I think he's mad from the very fucking beginning. That's just the way I look at it. So again, more into spoilers. He's successful, everything's going well, but then he starts thinking, oh, that ice, they're taking, try to think how he put it, they don't appreciate what I've done. I'm like, yeah, they do. It just seems like the Harrison Ford's character is a guy that will never be satisfied. And nothing he does will ever satisfy, whether his ego, and I think he's a guy that doesn't want to practice what he preaches, that I don't think he really knows what he wants. That's the way I look at the character. He thinks he wants this, but he pushes the goalposts for further and further and further, and just will never admit that he was wrong. And by doing so, he becomes such a self-destructive entity, and almost ready to destroy his family as well. So there's even a point where, oh, he hears about this other village, and we'll take ice to them because they'll appreciate it, and they'll see this ice as a jewel to be amazed by. But lo and behold, because it's the fucking jungle, they get over there and the ice melts. I'm like, no shit. I find it funny that you could create all this, like, you could create a whole fucking building of an ice machine, but I guess you can't create a thing called a cooler. Maybe you should have thought about that. Maybe you should have brought, we can't take a whole lot. Maybe you should have brought a cooler. To keep the shit cool. Yeah, just find it funny that of all the things you can invent all these things, but you can't invent a cooler, apparently. Just saying. Would have probably helped you out. They get back and they find out that a lot of the people who were there, they left with the missionaries. Because the Reverend gave them the fear of God. And then a couple guys with guns come by, like these rebels or whatever. And they want to stay there. So it's Harrison Ford, he gets the idea that I'm going to trap them. Which I don't know what he expected would happen. But to trap them in the place where his machine's at and freeze them in there. And River Phoenix isn't really gung-ho about doing it, but he gets him to do it, makes him do it. Help him out. But again, it's like, well, what do you expect was going to happen? Lo and behold, they get trapped. They're going to fire their guns, thus blow up the place and fuck up the place. So it's like, again, for a guy who's so smart and who's such a big inventor, I guess common sense isn't in his wheelhouse, which that is true, considering all the other things. So that's not really out the norm for this character. Common sense is not in his forte. Lo and behold, they shoot the shit out of it and blow the whole place up. Good explosion. Well filmed. The angles that Peter Weir uses and Harrison Ford's performance of being so out of it and crazed and no. And the big explosion and the fire will go over the pipe to this place and fuck up this place, and it blows up their home, and it screws up it pollutes the water, and this place is pretty much unusable. Very effective explosion, and nicely filmed by Peter Weir and his crew. And then the family, they think, oh, we're going to be able to go back. They're excited to go back, but of course Harrison Ford doesn't want to. This is finally when the boys, they finally speak up. And Harrison Ford tells not River Phoenix but the other kid, well, fine, you want to go with this guy? Go, and don't come back. Don't ever come back. I'm sitting there going, Helen Mirren, are you hearing this? Are you hearing that your husband is telling one of your kids to leave and never come back? Are you going to do something about this? And listen, again, to repeat myself, I know there are women out there that are like this. I do get that. But it does make for a more infuriating watch for me personally. And like, if she actually like tried to reason with him, or tried to talk, or fight with him, argue with him, and maybe it was a thing like throughout the film she gets stronger. So at the beginning she's the willing housewife, but she becomes more independent and becomes more of a fighter for her children, and then becomes like a mano of will. If I'm not going to let you destroy our kids, I've let this go on for too long. I've let this go on for far enough. No more. But doesn't. I mean, there's a teeny bit where he makes the two kids punished and on a boat, and she's like, bring them in, bring them on the boat. Nope, they're out there. They're going to be on that boat, and blah, blah, blah. But then she still doesn't really do anything about it. Harrison Ford wants to be on this beach, and one of the locals, he mentions how this is a dangerous spot. Because if a storm comes, it's going to drown this whole place. And even the guy comes back and warns River Phoenix, listen, be careful, you guys are going to drown if you stay here. And lo and behold, that's what happens. There's a big fucking storm, and they almost drown, and everything's screwed up. So they go off into the jungle, and they find that reverend again with the missionaries. And this girl that River Phoenix saw earlier, like near the beginning of the film, I think it's Martha Plimpton. She was in The Goonies. Like, she was one of the two girls that's with the Goonies. And she helps him out. Harrison Ford gets more and more crazed. Burns some of the sanctuary down. The missionary's place. Helen Mirren finally says, you're killing us, you're killing us. But still in kind of a weakling fashion. No, I think it would have been more effective. I think it would have been more impactful. I think it would have been more emotional if it was either her or River Phoenix. And in the spoilers, if they had to shoot Harrison Ford. But no, the Reverend does. He comes out, shoots, hits him in the neck. They're on a boat. He gives his diatribe. And they lied to him, saying, yeah, we're going where you want us to go. But in reality, they're leaving back to America. And River Phoenix narrates about how now he was gone and the world seemed limitless. Meaning, there was a point that he would listen to his dad no matter what, but then grew to hate him. But then now that he's gone, now they're free. Now, and again, I think that the actors, I think the where they shot it, the look of the film, great aerial shots of the boat going up these streams within the jungle, the music, very fitting for the film. It's definitely a well-handled picture, well-directed picture. The Harrison Ford, definitely a different type of performance. Nice to see him change it up. So at the end of the day, I did not mind the film. But man, like I said, it just, at times I would just get frustrated. Yeah, maybe not as much on the kids, but especially with Helen Mirren. And like I said, I just think it would have been more interesting to have this be a guy. Like, you know what? In a weird way, Falling Down, I think, did that better. Well, Michael Douglas, like, he's upset about traffic, but then, like, he just wants to go home, and there's stuff that annoys him, and that we could relate to. I think that whole thing about the American dream and turning it on its head, and how this guy kind of goes crazy because of it. I thought Falling Down was a lot more effective in doing that. And effective. And yeah, I don't know if this was the intention. If the intention was to make me feel sorry for Harrison Ford's character, then no, it didn't succeed. But again, that might not have been the intention at all. And if that's the case, then okay, he's crazed, and he gets crazier. So But yeah, I just Falling Down was the more interesting story for me because of reasons like that. So I don't think this is a film I would ever rewatch, but it was worth one watch at least. So because I had heard of it before, I just never got around to seeing it, but now I have, and again, not a bad film, very capably directed film. So take that for what you will. With that said, thanks for watching. Take care, and we'll see you guys later. Bye bye.